At the beginning of this week, a game that I've been anticipating for quite a while has finally released. I am of course talking about FBC Firebreak by Remedy, a studio that I've recently fell in love with, and so I was really excited what they're gonna cook up this time, considering it's a multiplayer game that I could play with my friends. And by friends I mean my brother. But after finishing the game on stream, I have some very strong opinions to talk about. I will never touch this game again. Now, if you're enjoying the game, that is completely fine, don't let me ruin your fun. But I will be very negative, mainly because I actually love this studio, and Sam Lake of course, and I want them to do better in the future. So let's first start off with why I actually love Remedy games. They are really strange, and they aren't particularly great video games. But the vision, the ideas, the characters, the writing and the music, along with the atmosphere, creates one of the most unique experiences you will ever experience. The oldest house is the main location where the game Control takes place, and the word strange does not even begin to describe it. First, the way that you can actually find this place is by actively looking for it. It does not just appear, it does not really exist. Also, this place is basically alive. The walls constantly move, so it's never really the same place. And of course, the FBC, the Federal Bureau of Control, said, hey, this is a great place for a headquarters. Now these guys do a couple of things. First things first, they contain a bunch of altered items. Now altered items are ordinary objects which possess a sort of paranatural ability to do stuff. For example, there is a fridge that you must constantly watch without blinking or it will kill you. Something very similar to altered items are OOPs, objects of power. Now these things are very similar to the altered items, except these objects of power can be binded to a person. For example, our main character in Control, called Jesse Faden, uses a OOP called the Service Weapon, and by doing so she is now the director of the FBC. Now I will not go into details on what that means, one, because I barely understand it, and two, it would take a while. Now altered items and objects of power are also a big part of something that is called AWEs, aka Altered World Events. Now an AWE happens when the paranatural forces intrude upon our universe, which results in our reality being altered, and that results in the creation of altered items and objects of power. And what I find really sick about that is that this is a direct explanation for the events of Alan Wake. It straight up just makes sense in the universe, and they explain it in such a cool way that connects the entire Remedyverse. It's awesome. So going into FBC Firebreak, I knew that we were in a location that housed so many items that had strange abilities. Such a cool place with shifting walls and dark corridors. And also, the hiss. I did not talk about the hiss. The hiss is like a plague. It takes over everything, it corrupts, and it's never really all that explained. It's like a supernatural entity sort of thing. And so when you put it all together and make a highly replayable multiplayer game when you go into different sectors of the oldest house and have to clear it up, whether to get the item or just clear up the hiss, it sounds like such a cool concept. And then you actually play the game, and it's the most boring slog I've ever experienced in my entire life. I straight up enjoy going to work more than playing this. That's not even like an exaggeration, that is straight up just a fact. Now before I get into the bad stuff, let me say some of the good stuff. First, the graphics, the animations, of course the design and lighting, it all looks beautiful. It looks fantastic. I also really like the way that they did environmental hazards and all these status effects that you get. You know, burning, radiation, pink goop, and the way that you combine them. I find it very satisfying to use the water gun on enemies and then just chuck in a shock grenade. I like these sort of combinations that are possible. Also, the classes, even though limited to only 3, they're pretty well made and they have pretty decent synergy. They're not fantastic, but they're not bad either. And also, the soundtrack sounds great. Sadly, there is no like 7-minute rock song like in their previous titles, but it maintains the same quality that Remedy is known for. And that was basically everything. So let's now talk about the bad things. The first thing that instantly hit me was that no one was playing the game. I could not find a lobby even on the beginner level on normal. which you would think is like cereal with milk. Everybody's doing that. So after I loaded into the game, I was expecting to at least have some AI teammates, considering this is a very cooperative focused game. And even though your character has voice lines like he's talking to someone, nobody's there. Also, it's like the game didn't expect me to play in solo, and so the enemy spawns are exactly the same as if I was in a 3-man group. This sort of really bad balancing is very apparent when you get to the boss fight in Paper Chase. That guy takes like 50 years to take down. In fact, I rage quit on that guy because I did not want to shoot him 50 million times. Straight up, this is horrible. This is atrocious. Who launched the game? Who made them release it? Talking about shooting, the shooting feels pretty okay. The variety is not varying. There's barely any different sort of weapons. There's like 6 maybe, and most of them aren't made for ground control, which when I was playing solo, I needed something to take down a lot of enemies in a row. And a lot of these weapons are like single shot revolvers or bolt action rifles. And don't get me wrong, those pack a punch and feel pretty good, except that the sound balancing makes your weapon sound like a BB gun. Okay, the gunshots are a little quiet, I feel like. A gunshot is usually the loudest thing you can hear in a game, beside an explosion, but in this game, it's on the same sound level as like a footstep. I don't know who mixed the audio, but it just does not feel right. And that goes with everything. In the main menu, the music is like you turn it down 50 decibels. Why is the game so quiet when I get into it? Like everything is on max, but the music is barely audible. And in general, the game is quieter than every other game I have played. I don't know what's up with that. I would really like to know what happened. And while I'm talking about the sound design, why is there no music like 90% of the time? It makes it so much more boring that you cannot hear any sort of music during your entire gameplay session. Only at the end. Why? Yeah, the no music also doesn't help. Like, I'm just walking around with nothing really happening, you know. Also, what's up with the healing in this game? They made it in a way where you can only heal in a sink or in a shower, which both of those places make you get stuck in one place. And considering that a lot of enemies can spawn at one moment and just swarm you, that is not a very good thing. What's happening? Hello? I would just give the player like a syringe or a water bottle that would restore half your health and maybe your stamina. Something like Helldivers, basically. And I feel like you'll be fine. Now, the enemies that you get attacked by are sort of okay, almost. There isn't a lot of variety. There could definitely be a lot more different enemy types. Because right now you got easy to kill dude with a pipe, easy to kill dude with a pistol, flying guy who explodes, and then heavy dudes with different weapons, plus like 1 or 2 special enemies depending on the mission. There could definitely be more variety with the basic enemies, or at least give us some really cool little mini boss fights or boss fights in general. There's straight up just one boss fight in the entire game, and it's kind of boring. Looks cool though. Also, please just change the spawn rates. It makes no sense how enemies spawn. They just randomly pop in a tiny group that I can take out in like 2 seconds, or it's a massive horde that spawns behind a door to the next level. So make it just a bit more consistent. There are straight up like 5 to 10 minute parts of the game where nothing is spawning and I'm just doing the objective. And talking about the objectives, they're so boring and uninspired, it baffles me. 90% of the objectives boil down to press 2 buttons over and over again until a thing happens, or shoot at the ground at sticky notes, or bring thing to a payload. Frequency shift? More like frequently in a place with so many strange items that could be used to spawn different sort of things you have to defend against, and you choose to make the objectives to click buttons or shoot sticky notes on the ground? What were you thinking? Did you really think I would want to play this over and over and over again? There's no sense of randomness in such a strange place. You would expect that something unexpected will happen. But no, I just have to shoot 20,000 sticky notes on the walls and the ground. Why not have an altered item as the main center point of your objective? You have to hunt it down, it goes through different sections of the level, spawning different items and things you have to either attack or like defuse, or You know, just give me some variety. There's a really cool level that has a bunch of pink goop in it, and it all just boils down to go to thing and press 2 buttons for like 30 minutes. Why? Why not add a different sort of objective to it? Also, the ammo, grenade, and battle pass tier pickups take like a straight up second to pick up. Why can't I just click the button and pick it up? Why do I have to hold it for a second? In a game where you'd think you'd have to be fast and on the move, they really love slowing you down and putting you into the same place to stay. I talked about the battle pass pickups. Yeah, the game has a battle pass. It's free though, so that's kinda nice. There is a paid one, which I have not checked out, but the free one basically just acts like you're leveling. There's nothing really special about it. It's like the diet version of the war bonds from Helldivers. Also, this thing where you have to press 2 buttons feels kind of Helldivers inspired. It's like they tried to recreate the sort of fun you get from pressing stratagems, except they just made it 2 buttons and made it way too long to be enjoyable. Also, there's perks in the game which make basically no difference and are extremely generic. And that's actually a great way to describe this game. Generic, boring, and completely out of character for Remedy. I straight up think this was just like a training program for interns. This wasn't a game they wanted to really make. It feels forced, it feels rushed. I can't really feel any passion behind it. And honestly, I feel like they have so much stuff in the game that needs to be just completely reworked. And that makes me a little bit worried that they will never truly fix the game, because they would have to just remake the entire objectives, add a bunch of new weapons, change the classes and the spawn rates, change the enemies, the whole sound design. It's weird. I'm not a game designer. I can't really speak on how difficult it would be, but it feels like a bunch of work, and if I were them, I would probably just give up on it, which I really don't want to happen. But yeah, this game just makes me really sad, really bored, and I honestly just don't want to think about it for a long while until they do some really necessary fixes, if they even do them. An update already came out that changed stuff a tiny bit, but it's a long way from being a good game. By the way, like I said, I stream all of this on YouTube, so if you want to check out the VODs, they're right in the live section on my channel. And be sure to tune in next week where we play way too much Death Stranding, because I've been waiting for that game the whole time, and if it turns out the same as this one, I will probably commit unalivement.